There is a specific kind of person that is difficult to describe until you have met one. They do not talk about what they have been through. Not because they are hiding it, but because somewhere along the way it stopped feeling like the most important thing about them. They are steady in situations that unsettle everyone else. They notice things others miss. They do not need much external validation to keep moving. And if you ask them directly how they got this way, most of them cannot give you a clean answer. They just did what they had to do. They got through it. And somewhere in the getting through, something changed that they never fully planned for. This is about what that change actually looks like. Not as inspiration, as psychology. 1. You developed a pain threshold most people never have to find. Suffering at a significant level forces the nervous system to recalibrate what registers as a threat. When you have genuinely struggled, not inconvenience, not disappointment, but real prolonged difficulty, your baseline for what constitutes a crisis shifts permanently. What sends most people into a spiral sits below the threshold of alarm for you. Not because you are numb or disconnected from what is happening around you. Because you have actual reference points for what hard really feels like. Psychologists studying post-traumatic growth have found this consistently. People who have moved through serious adversity often report a fundamentally changed relationship with everyday stress. Not that it disappears entirely, but that it loses the ability to feel catastrophic in the way it once did. You have been through worse. Your nervous system knows it. And that knowledge operates quietly below the surface, even when you are not consciously thinking about it. 2. You learn to read people at a level most never develop, when your environment was unpredictable. When the emotional temperature of a room determined what kind of day you were going to have, your brain adapted by getting very good at reading that temperature early. You learn to track micro-expressions. Tone shifts. The specific silence that means something is wrong versus the silence that means everything is fine. You learn to notice when someone's words and their body language were telling two different stories. You learn these things not as a skill you chose to develop, but as a survival mechanism that operated automatically without you ever deciding to build it. Research on people who grew up in difficult or unpredictable environments consistently shows elevated capacity for emotional perception, the ability to read what people are, feeling with accuracy and speed. It was not a gift, it was a response to necessity. But it is real, and it travels with you into every room you enter for the rest of your life. 3. You became genuinely difficult to manipulate. People who have been hurt in significant ways, particularly by people they trusted, develop something that functions like a finely tuned early warning system. You know what certain patterns feel like before they fully arrive. You have seen how particular kinds of charm operate up close. You recognize the architecture of certain dynamics long before anyone has done anything overtly wrong. And that recognition, even when you cannot fully articulate why something feels off, changes how you respond to it. This is not cynicism. Cynicism closes you off from everything indiscriminately. This is something far more specific, a calibrated awareness of when something does not quite add up. It does not make you suspicious of everyone you meet. It makes you harder to deceive by the specific patterns you have already lived through once before. 4. You stop needing approval the way most people do. One of the quieter transformations that happens through sustained difficulty is a gradual loosening of dependence on external validation. When you have had to keep moving through periods where no one was watching, no one was encouraging you, and the circumstances were not fair and did not care, you build a relationship with your own judgment that is genuinely different from someone who has always had support around them. You learn to trust your own assessment of situations because there was often no one else's available. You learn to decide and move without waiting for someone to confirm you were doing it right. And that internal self-sufficiency, once built through necessity, does not disappear when conditions improve. It becomes part of how you operate by default, quietly and without effort. 5. You built a tolerance for uncertainty that most people find unbearable. Difficult periods are almost always uncertain periods. You do not know how long it will last. You do not know what happens if it does not improve. You are making decisions with incomplete information in conditions that do not feel stable and show no signs of becoming stable anytime soon. Living inside that long enough changes your relationship with not knowing. Psychologists call this ambiguity tolerance, the ability to function inside a situation without having the full picture yet. People who have developed it through real adversity tend to move through open-ended situations that paralyze others. Not because they are reckless or indifferent to outcomes, because they learned that waiting for certainty before acting is itself a choice with consequences, and that you can move forward without knowing exactly where forward eventually leads. 6. Your empathy developed a quality that comfort alone cannot produce. There is a version of empathy that comes from imagination, trying to understand what someone is going through by projecting yourself into their situation. It is genuine, and it matters. And then there is a version that comes from having actually been in a version of that place. That kind of empathy does not need to imagine. It recognizes. It knows what that specific weight feels like from the inside, what it sounds like at 2 a.m, what people actually need when they are carrying it versus what they say. They need when you ask. Research on compassion consistently distinguishes between these two modes. The kind born from real experience carries a different quality, a groundedness, a lack of performance, an ability to sit with someone in genuine difficulty without needing to fix it prematurely or move past it too quickly because it makes you uncomfortable. That capacity, developed through your own pain, becomes something quietly valuable to the people around you. 7. You learned that you can survive things you thought would break you. This one is the most foundational of all, and it is the one that quietly changes everything else. At some point, you went through something you were not sure you would get through, and you got through it. Not cleanly, not without cost, not without it leaving a mark. But you came out the other side still functional, still moving, still capable of engaging with whatever came next. That experience does something to your relationship with fear that is very difficult to acquire any other way. Because now you have evidence, not theoretical reassurance from someone telling you that you are strong. Actual evidence, lived, specific, undeniable, that you are more capable of endurance than you knew before it happened. Psychologist Anne Maston, who spent decades researching resilience, described this not as something rare or extraordinary, but as a common human capacity that most people simply do not discover until circumstances force them to look for it. The suffering did not create the capacity. It revealed what was already there. The strength existed before the difficulty arrived. It just needed something real enough to press against before it became visible. Even to you,